Hello everybody, just wanted to welcome you to the fourth week of class. In the fourth week we're going to talk about course mapping or instructional alignment a bit. Instructional alignment is kind of really an important part of any course design, whether it be face-to-face, blended, or online, is how we ensure that our course goals and objectives are aligned to the content of the class and then to the assessment. So certainly if we had a disconnect between the objectives we were intending to cover and either the content or the assessment of those, we would have an issue that we want to fix in class. So as we get started, I wanted to share with you where we went this weekend for a little bit. One day, I think it was Saturday, we went up hiking. We had heard about a waterfall in Bad Branch Natural Preserve over by Whitesburg. So we went down there. Here's a picture from the waterfall. It was a beautiful hike. Certainly we didn't have as much water coming down the waterfall as we expected, although knowing that we hadn't had some rain for a while, we knew that it wouldn't be flowing nearly as much as if we had just had a good rain. However, it was a beautiful hike, and it did bring up some points as I was kind of hiking and thinking about class and online learning. A couple of parallels occurred to me that I thought I'd share with you. So here's a couple other photos from the class, or from the hike we went on. And you know, the first one here, I took it just because I thought it was pretty, or both of them. However, as we went through the hike, I thought, you know, this is a good example of what we're trying to really accomplish with instructional alignment to some degree, and just kind of a good example of how we hope an online class is anyway, or any class maybe. But you know, here was the start of the hike on this side, and it looks very clear, you know, where you go. It's a nice path. While there is some overhanging trees, it's pretty clear that the path goes this direction, and that's where you go. On the right-hand side, you can see that the path is a little bit harder to find. When we got here, there's kind of maybe a path that goes along here, but you might be able to go up this direction too, maybe here, maybe along here. And this wasn't even the most confusing place we came to. We actually came around a corner and had a couple approaching us, letting us know that they had been lost for some period of time, that they didn't know where the path was to get back, and they had heard us talking and just followed our voices. So they were very happy to hear us because they really felt like they were lost. As we were going through, we kind of felt similarly. There was just a place where you kind of lost track of where the path was, and there seemed like there was a number of different ways you could go. Some of them led to fields of boulders and dead ends, and then you had to get back, and it was kind of difficult. Even on our way back, we went a different way than we intended to, and some people were on a trail on top of us, and some people were on a trail behind us or below us. But you know, when I was thinking about this, I thought, you know what, this is very similar to what we're trying to accomplish. There could be a lot of different ways to achieve our course goals. However, what we're trying to accomplish is what is, you know, the most straightforward, which is the easiest way for students to get from where we hope they are at point A when they come into class to point B where they end the class. And it doesn't mean that some of these side paths over here aren't good to take and we might not end up on them. However, we don't want students to get lost like that couple did that we found, and find themselves scared and confused in some way, not knowing where they are and where to get back, and how to accomplish the things in class that we intend them to accomplish and that we intend to assess them on. So just kind of as a review, you know, last week we talked about goals and objectives, and goals were kind of these overall, these large key topics in the class. And what we were trying to do is say, hey, you know, if these are the main items we want students to accomplish in our class, what are those objectives that are measurable that we can use to be able to give us some confidence that, you know, if the students are down here to begin with when they come into class, that as they achieve these objectives, that when they have achieved those, we can say with confidence that they have achieved those goals. You know, there's no magic number of goals in a class. I normally suggest people try to get somewhere between, you know, 3 to 5 in a common, you know, 15-week course or 8-week online course that's condensed. However, that's really dependent on what the curriculum is and what you're trying to accomplish. The same thing goes with a number of objectives. You know, 3 to 5, sometimes under the Each goal is pretty standard. However, it really depends. Different faculty members teaching the same course could look at exactly the same content and come up with slightly different goals and objectives. And that's fine as long as they are useful goals and objectives for helping students learn and for helping develop the class. So if we look at just kind of the general definitions we use, we said course goal is this kind of broad learning outcome that students will acquire. So what we're really hoping they do is that they go through our class, and as a result of going through our class, they learn certain topics that we intend them to learn. And the course objectives are those things that are a little bit more measurable. We talked about SMART objectives, but what we really wanted was something that we could say with confidence that, hey, we could watch students going through the class. We could look at them and their ability to accomplish these particular objectives. And if we have them reasonably go through these objectives and meet those, we'll know pretty much that they've achieved those goals. So, when we're looking at a goal, it's very common to have students will know, students will learn, students will understand. For example, students will learn effective strategies to prepare for debates. Okay, that's a big topic that might be in a public speaking class. And we're using that word learn. We're going to learn effective strategies. But there really is no detail necessarily on how students will learn those or what those effective strategies are. In the goal, that's okay. It's the big learning outcome, but not necessarily measurable. Objectives, on the other hand, they need to be measurable. Like, again, we talked about SMART objectives. But you can't use words like know or understand in an objective unless you clarify how you will know that they know that, or how will you know that they understand the concept, because inherently I don't know that somebody knows something. They have to do something or say something or accomplish something that would let me know that they have that knowledge. So instead we want to use terms and words that are measurable and that we can actually tie to content and tie to particular assessments in class to know that they did know that. So identify, demonstrate, present, list. There's hundreds of them you could use. We had a guide in the material from week 3 that showed some examples of verbs that could be used. Other examples could be evaluate documents presented on a particular debate, or develop a concept map relating to a particular topic. That leads us into a direction of what we think is going to be accomplished, but it also gives us something we can really measure. These words, whatever one you pick, those really give you an idea of what you intend the students to do with that. So a demonstrate indicates that you're going to have them do something and you're going to watch them do it. Identify, list, present, those all give ideas of what it is that student's going to do in the assessment that's going to let you know that they accomplished what you intended them to accomplish. At this point, we are still looking at drafts. You can change your objectives and your goals, even the map coming up in a second we'll show you, anytime you would like to. These is very common to have people write objectives that have identify, list, whatever those are. As they start mapping things out over time, they realize that the word really belongs something else. Very common, people will put demonstrate, and they realize that the activities never give students an opportunity to demonstrate anything. Maybe it's compare and contrast that works better. So you can change these at any time. This is just a draft to get you started on the process. So this week we're going to be working on a course map, and again the intent is to instruct or to align our instruction. So you'll see this document that's provided for you. This information is really general. You may or may not have general education outcomes. So some institutions will have particular outcomes that their GE, their general education core, is supposed to provide to students. And of course, if they have those written out, then accreditors are going to want to know where those are assessed and how the institution knows those are accomplished. So if you have a class that meets some of those objectives, you want to list those out in your map to make sure that you're assessing them, and so that you'll know that you can provide that information if asked during an accreditation preparation visit. for ways that those objectives are being accomplished. You may not have any, and if you don't have any, then that can just be taken out. The same thing goes for university or school programs. There are some university programs, departments that have specific goals that they have to meet. And if that's the case, then again, the accreditors are probably going to want to know where are those met within that curriculum. This is a place where you can list those out and make sure that they are mapped somewhere in the class if your class accomplishes those. And so you can come back to this with a lot of confidence that you've met those. Underneath, we have just listed out our goals and objectives. Now, over time, you can build these out. You're only asked to do 3 weeks for this one. So you'll write out the course goals. You've already done a couple for week 2. You may have to add a couple for week 2s and 3 in your class, since last week was only week 1 of a course. But you write those out, and then however many objectives you have under those. And you'll see that in this case, I actually suggest that under course goal 1, you list objective 1, 2, and 3, or however many you have. When you have goal 2, you start with 4, 5, and 6. And that's just because you don't want to get a situation where you're mapping learning objective 2 or 3 and not know what goal that matches up to. There's other ways you can accomplish that. So as long as, if I'm looking at this, I can pretty easily tell that you'll be able to differentiate learning objective, the third learning objective under goal 3 from the third learning objective under goal 1. It'll be all right. Going on, you got course text, supplemental readings, online sources, all those type of things you can continue to build on, but you'll probably have some basics there. And then in the map itself, what we have is the learning week. We have the objectives that are going to be accomplished, however they're listed, the major themes or topic of that week. There's a place for learning activities and assessments or assignments, so the things that are going to happen within that week, and then the assessments. And you can change these at whatever seems appropriate to you. This one we built had devotions. You may not have devotions. You may have inspirational thoughts. You may have some kind of other weekly activity to get people going, but you don't necessarily have to have that at all anyway. Then you have here's some discussion forums, assignments, whatever those happen to be. You can list those out and then indicate under those which goals and objectives they list to. So the intent is that you could go back and say, here is an objective we're trying to accomplish this week. Here is the activities that will help them to gain the expertise in that particular objective. And then here are places that those are going to be assessed. And it could be one or it could be multiple places. So hopefully when that's done, you have this very clear alignment between all these elements in your curriculum, and you'll know that you have an objective, all the objectives are being met, you have a place where they're going to learn that content, and then you have a place where they're going to be assessed on that content. And then the weeks just go from there. So all you guys need to do for this time is put together 3 weeks of whatever curriculum you have. If you happen to have like a 5-week course and 3 weeks represents like 60% of it, that's going to be a whole lot different than if you have 3 weeks of a 15-week course. So if there's some reason why 3 weeks is a huge amount of your course that you're not ready to prepare, let me know and we can work on it. Really what I'm just looking for is, can you get started on something like this and then continue on your own as you build out your course. So I did give you an example of how this might look for a particular course. In this class, it was an Intro to Sociology course. You have the course description. There was the general education outcomes. This one happened to have 5 that it was meeting. That's kind of a lot. Our hope was that there was 1 maybe to 3, but the faculty can determine if there are more than that that's appropriate to meet. Then the course goals and learning objectives for this class are listed out. The course content, the textbook, and then you see now we have the learning objectives. So in week 1, these are the learning objectives that are being met. Here's the major topic that week. Here are the activities that are going to be done in that particular week and the assignments. And then here are the assessments. And so again, what I will look for is whether or not there appears to be alignment between where things are listed in one place and where they're listed in another. Again, you should be able to go back and say, yes, they're met in one place. I intend to meet these. They will learn that content, and then we're going to assess that content as well. And you can see that there's some objectives that may be met in multiple places, and some maybe that are only met within one particular place. And if you go down a course, there could be a number of places where every week a certain thing is being assessed, or it may just be assessed on one assignment in 1 week. So if you have any questions about this, please do let me know. Happy to help you in any way possible. And again, this is just a draft, so you get started on it, and then I'm happy to help you go on if you continue to build out the map as you're developing a course. As you work on this, if you would like me to take a look at other weeks, or if you would like me to look at subsequent drafts, or if you want to meet and talk about it, I'm happy to do so. Just let me know, and we will make sure that everything is clear and that we are aligning our curriculum so that we know that all the pieces fit together. Have a great week, and we will talk to you soon.